I want to talk to you about how to use Apple Pay this year, so you have a clear idea about how to really use this tool to get things done, like to pay online or to pay offline also. Okay, so here are the general considerations. So one thing for sure, basically, when you think, I want to first talk to you about what Apple Pay really is. Let's define it. So Apple Pay is actually Apple's mobile wallet, and in stores, Apple Pay allows you to check out and pay by holding your phone over a payments reader that can accept Apple Pay. And so that's for stores, okay? In apps and on websites, Apple Pay allows you to trigger a payment with just a tap on your phone. So pretty straightforward, pretty automatic, okay? And so Apple Pay works on iPhone models with Touch ID, except for iPhone 5S, all iPhone models with a Face ID, and also Apple Watch Series 1 and later. And Apple Pay also works with the iPad Pro, iPad Air, iPad, and iPad mini models with Touch ID or Face ID, and all Mac models with Touch ID or Mac models introduced in 2012 or later with an Apple Pay enabled phone actually are compatible with Apple Pay as well. So that's really straightforward. Nothing really complicated here, okay? And so how do you actually set up Apple Pay? Well, you have to open up wallet, and you have to open a wallet on a supported Apple device. Then using your device's camera, you want to select the debit or credit card option and take pictures of the credit cards you like to load into your mobile wallet, okay? And to use Apple Pay at stores, just hold your device up to the NFC enabled reader. And NFC or near field communication actually is a technology that allows two devices like a phone and a payment terminal to talk to each other when they are close together, and that triggers the payment. And again, everything works out really fast. There is no need to open a new app or wake up your phone to use Apple Pay. But Apple Pay isn't just accepted in stores. You can use it within certain apps and websites as well. And there is no NFC reader involved in those transactions. So if you are using Apple Pay in an app, just unlock your phone using Face ID, Touch ID, or authenticate with your password. And Apple Pay is really secure, not a problem there. I mean, the technology has been around for a while now, so this is really good. Let me give you the usage here. When we think about how to use Apple Pay, let's talk about how to set up Apple Pay on your iPhone. And the thing is that if you actually own a business, it's always a good idea to stay up to speed with the latest in new payments technologies like Apple Pay, right? And as Apple Pay continues to take off, people will want to use it at your store. So it's important for you to become familiar with how things work on the buyer side of things, so that you can actually prevent any fumbling on your end as a business owner. And the best way to learn about Apple Pay is to try it out for yourself, right? It's not really complicated, pretty straightforward. It's a relatively easy process to enable Apple Pay on your device. So depending on your card issuer, you can set your card up for Apple Pay through Apple Wallet or through your issuer's app. For example, with a Square debit card, you can easily add your card to Apple Pay through your Square point of sale app by navigating to the balance section of the app. So Square debit card, add card to Apple Pay, confirm your details, and you're done. Pretty straightforward, nothing really complicated. So for issuers that direct you to the wallet, open it up and load up the credit card or debit cards you like on file in the system. And Apple Pay works with most major credit card and debit cards from US banks. You can also go to Apple's website to see a full list of banks that participate in Apple Pay. So when you add your participating cards to your wallet, you'll still get all the rewards, benefits, and security features of your card. So there is no loss of privileges there. Okay, very important. So how do you actually add a card to Apple Pay? Well, if you already have a card associated with your Apple ID, it's super easy. Just select the option to add that card to Apple Pay by entering the security code that's on the back of your card. And if you don't have a card on file for your Apple ID, you just need to go through a few more steps. Use the iPhone's camera to take a photo of your card and fill in any additional info the app asks for, like your security code, And after your card is verified, voila, you can start using Apple Pay anywhere that accepts it. And the cool thing is that you can get things done a lot, like things set up real fast. So let's talk about how to set up Apple Pay on your Apple Watch, because if you are into sports, if you love to run, if you are on the go all the time, you might want to think about how Apple Watch can work with your Apple Pay. Okay, so to set up Apple Pay on your Apple Watch, go to the Tap My Watch app on your iPhone and tap Wallet and Apple Pay. This is pretty straightforward. And from there, you want to follow the same steps as you would earlier to add a card, remove a card, and set a default card for payments. And the cool thing is that the information is synchronized across multiple devices. You can use your Apple Watch to pay for goods and services by double-clicking the side button, scrolling through your watch to choose a card, and holding your Apple Watch close to a contactless card reader. And the thing is that if everything goes through, you should hear a feel gentle, tap and feel a beep to confirm the payment went through. Be sure to have your Apple Watch display facing the reader. That way you know that the transaction went through. Otherwise, you might be surprised. Sometimes it doesn't go through. And how do you set up Apple Pay on your iPad or Mac? Well, in order to set up Apple Pay on your iPad or Mac, you got to go to the wallet settings on your device, tap to add a card and follow the steps, and you will have to verify your information with your bank or card issuer during this setup process. And for a Mac model with Touch ID, you will find Wallet and Apple Pay through System Preferences. And for an iPad, you can actually find the wallet settings by going to Settings, okay? And you can start using the Apple Pay as soon as you add a card to your wallet. So that's kind of cool, especially when it comes to the possibilities that you have. So that's really fantastic. And one thing I want to say also is that if you are thinking about using Apple Pay on your iPad or Mac or your Apple Watch, just make sure that you are pretty secure. Like security settings are pretty high with Apple devices in general. So if you don't have the proper security settings, you're not going to find the whole thing pretty interesting. So be very careful there. Let's talk about location here. So where can you use Apple Pay? Well, the thing is that you have a lot of places that are accepting Apple Pay this year, and it was pretty interesting because we saw a resurgence of places accepting Apple Pay during COVID. I mean, folks were home, but a lot of brick and mortar stores and actually online stores they revamped their back office to make sure that they were taking actually Apple Pay. Okay, so many large retailers across the country accept Apple Pay, from Walgreens to Whole Food to Petco and Sephora. Okay, to name a few, of course. And Apple's website has a full list of larger retailers who now accept Apple Pay at the checkout counter. You can also check Apple Maps to see whether a store near you accepts Apple Pay. And so that's kind of cool in terms of flexibility. We love that a lot. And the thing is that the database within Apple Pay is really pretty up to date. I mean, they actually update that database every single day, by the way. Sometimes they do also like within the hour. So that's kind of cool. So basically, when you have a store near you that accepts Apple Pay, just choose your location and look for the Apple Pay marker. You got to have the marker though, okay? And stores that accept Apple Pay have a different kind of payments device. One that's equipped with something called NFC. I think I said this before. And so that's kind of cool. And NFC is really the technology that enables contactless payments, which are transactions that require no contact between the buyer's smartphone or credit card and the POS terminal, okay? And so that's kind of cool. So on supported iPhones and iPads, you can also use Apple Pay to make purchases within apps. And apps like Airbnb and Target accept Apple Pay. So that's really good in terms of, let's say, expanding the realm of retailers and also apps that accept you to actually pay through Apple Pay. One thing for sure is that no matter where you're at, you always want to start with the Apple Pay app, okay? So that you have a clear idea if you are within the vicinity of a facility that accepts this payment process. If yes, that's cool. If not, you just use your regular credit card or debit card for that matter. So how do you use Apple Pay at stores? I mean, Apple Pay is really an example of a contactless payments. Okay, meaning what? Meaning you can just hold your device near the payments, ready to, the payments reader to pay. And one thing for sure, you do have to be pretty close though, usually around a few inches or less. And that's where the near part of a near field communication comes in. Remember, NFC, near field communication. Okay, so you got to be really close. And it's one of those things where you got to always, of course, I mean, I don't have to tell you about safety, right? You have to really think about safety, security, make sure that you are in a comfortable environment before actually initiating an NFC transaction. So to initiate an Apple Pay payments on your phone, wait until the light on the payments reader comes on. There is no need to open a new app or even wake up your display to use Apple Pay. Just hold your device up to the reader. So everything is pretty straightforward, especially if the store has the latest technology when it comes to NFC. You can be sure that you're pretty much really on the right path. Okay. Now, once everything checks out, which can take somewhere from 10 seconds to 30 seconds, depending on how the technology is set up in that store, the payment actually is set in motion. And if you have a number of cards on file, you can select your default card or choose another one. And again, it's one of those things where you have to be very clear about how many cards you have on file, because otherwise you do not want to choose the wrong file anyway. Okay. And so within a few seconds, the transaction is complete. I mean, again, 10 seconds to 30 seconds, transaction is complete. You should actually see your account being updated. That's pretty straightforward. And you will see a checkbox on your device's screen that indicates this. This is basically what tells the retailer that, yeah, the payment has been received. Everything is fine, and you also can be more comfortable that you have actually fulfill your responsibility as a buyer. So this is an important element to think about. But one thing for sure, Apple Pay just allows you not to carry physical credit cards. You know, like you can have a lighter wallet going forward, so that if something were to happen, if you were to lose your wallet, nothing will happen to you. You don't have a bigger risk. That's the way to look at it. Let's talk about how to use Apple Pay in apps. Okay, I've told you before that you have the possibility to use Apple Pay in apps as well. So on supported iPhone and iPad models, you can use Apple Pay to pay for items with a single tap within apps or on a website. That means what? It means that you no longer need to pull out your wallet and type out your credit card number, contact information, and shipping details. And to use Apple Pay in apps, you first need to set it up, very important, using the steps that I said to you earlier. That you want to pay for something within an app that accepts Apple Pay, and the app will let you know if it does anyway. I mean, it's done automatically. And all you have to do is choose Apple Pay as your payments option and activate the transaction using Face ID or the button if you are using an Apple Watch. So, and then you want to complete the purchase with the tap. Now, one thing I need to say here is that if you are on a website, you want to choose Apple Pay as your payment option, confirm the card you want to use and the shipping address, then confirm your purchase using the Face ID or Touch ID on your iPhone or the button on your Apple Watch. Okay, very important to think about it that way. Now, one thing for sure, you want to make sure that you all the like when you have the checkout page, you have to make sure that you check all the information, right? Things like the items that you are buying, your first name, last name, your email address, your zip code, your all that kind of information. Now, you also, it's important to understand that there have been cases where hackers have been able to change people's information. So you always want to double check information to make sure this is actually you. Okay. And one thing I want to say also, the final amount that's been charged on your card has been charged to your Apple Pay. You want to make sure that the final amount is actually correct, because otherwise, you know, once this transaction goes through, it's kind of complicated to actually to invalidate it, like to cancel that transaction. It's one of those things where you might have to call your bank, might have to call the retailer, blah blah blah. You do not want to go that route. You just want to you want the transaction to go through with the right amount and also with the right items. let me give you a few other considerations. So let's talk about Apple Pay security features. So basically, so when you think about security features, you have a lot of protocols that are there. So Apple Pay transactions are encrypted and secure. That's for sure. Okay. Now Apple Pay actually uses sophisticated technology to encrypt and protect every transaction. I mean, every single one. For one, your debit or credit card numbers are never actually stored on your device. Instead, Apple assigns something called a device account number to each added card, which is essentially a code name for that card. Okay. And the device account number is then encrypted and stored securely in something called a secure element, which is really a dedicated chip in the iPhone, iPad, or even Apple Watch. So what happens here is that when you go to pay for something, that device account number, along with a dynamic and transaction-specific security code, is actually used to process the transaction. So your actual credit or debit card numbers are never shared by Apple with merchants or transmitted with the payments. And what happens here is that each and every payments you make through Apple Pay has different information associated with it. So none of your data is actually stored anywhere. So that's really important to think about. And so you have a lot of possibilities there in terms of making sure that you are getting your data transmitted in real time. And what's more, Apple Pay payments are protected by Face ID, which is really Apple's facial recognition technology. So even if your phone is stolen, your information is locked down. You can also use Apple's Find My iPhone feature to quickly put your device into lost mode to suspend Apple Pay for an added security, like a layer of security. So you have a lot of benefits. When you think about Apple Pay, you have a lot of benefits. Apple Pay transactions those transactions take just seconds. Okay, that's really important to think about. And you are also able to use Apple Pay across all locations, not just in the States, but also overseas. I mean, that's a good thing. Okay. And so you are able to check out fast if you are a client, but you're able to monetize you're able to grow revenue real fast if you are a small business owner. Okay. The thing is that the sophisticated technology behind an Apple Pay transactions means that the payments takes just seconds. That's faster than magnetic stripe card transactions and noticeably faster than chip card EMV transactions, which are known to be sluggish. So the adoption of EMV as the standard for credit card processing, in fact, maybe what accelerates the adoption of Apple Pay in the United States. I mean, when people and merchants, for that matter, realize how long EMV transactions take, Apple Pay may become the preferred form of payments in our view. So it's just a matter of time before people actually approve this across the board. So in conclusion to this conversation, I spoke to you about how to use Apple Pay. I gave you the general consideration, the usage, the location, and the other considerations. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.